The business, I guess it's the same sort of things that any business suffers or faces as it goes from a smaller business to a larger one. And in some respects, we're a fairly large publishing house now. We've got 500 staff around the world, and that's, in publishing terms, that's not small anymore. And you obviously do face a lot of issues then that sometimes you don't really see the need for change until you should have made that change ages ago. And you see that in all sorts of ways. I think our first computer techie, we got one and thought, do we really need someone to look after our computers? And as soon as you had one, you found really you needed two, and now you've got 10. And it's the same thing in many other ways, that in business, in accounting, in finance, in so many other ways, you move from doing things yourself and doing it on a low-key basis to needing to do things in a more professional way. So I guess that's one part of the change. Another part is just as the business gets to a certain size, you can't keep on doing the things you were doing before, partly because it gets boring if you're always doing the same thing, partly because you can't depend upon having all your eggs in the one basket. You've got to look for new things to do, and it isn't always, you've been good at doing one thing, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be good at doing other things. And we've certainly felt that. We've taken on new projects that haven't been as successful as some of our earlier ones, and yet you need to do those things to keep yourself fresh, and also because you're not going to find the same growth eventually as you once had as your core products become more mature. And then there's the question of how do you keep that feel you had in the business earlier on? As it gets larger, how do you keep that sort of small company feel that you don't want to lose? You still want to keep you still want to keep the same ideas and ideals that you have behind it. So there's lots of challenges that you face. And then personally, there's the fact that your own role gets rewritten, that you're no longer, in the early days, we did everything. We wrote the books, we sold the books, we were the sales department, the marketing department, the finance department, and of course, in every one of those categories, there are people around now who can do it much better than we can. And it's a question of, do you say, oh, the hell with it, I'll give it away, let the experts do it, and I'll just bow right out? Or do you still find things that interest you in it, and that you can still do well, and that it's worthwhile having yourself around? So I guess it's also a question of reassessing your own role and finding new things that you can do personally.
September the 11th has definitely had an impact on travel, and of course Lonely Planet's affected by that. I think we have to look at where we want to be in the next 5-10 years. I think we've been going through a period of transition, and that period has lasted probably 5-6 years already, and it's been about just about growth, really, without really thinking about what was happening. It was very organic. One thing led to another. We had profits, so we spent it on books or new projects, whatever seemed like a good idea we did. And of course, along with that, we got more and more staff, and we had to move out into this office. And I think there was a sort of sobering realization that we had to be a lot more formal in our decision making, a lot more disciplined, that we needed to start employing managers with a lot more experience, especially in financial matters, and that we had to change. And so we've been doing that. We've been changing, and then of course September the 11th has come along, and it's made it more imperative that we are disciplined, that we think about what we do, and that we plan for growth instead of letting growth just overtake us. So I think that's what we're doing at the moment, and September the 11th has accelerated that, and will make it even more imperative that we start guiding the company rather than let the company sort of bolt like a runaway horse.